My husband came home from a trip, heard I spent the weekend comforting his daughter, and asked, "Do you think you can be a proper mother figure for once in your life?" When I finally opened up and said I loved her like my own, he blocked the fridge and said, "Wouldn't want you to be careless with that too." I just stared at him. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, he sat in her room, holding a crayon drawing and didn't speak for over an hour. If he wants to complain about my efforts, she can stay with someone else. I've never been a person who wanted children in the first place. I found out I couldn't have kids when I was really young because of a health issue, and I accepted it a long time ago without much trouble. I have been married to my husband for 3 years now and absolutely adore his daughter. She's a literal ray of sunshine and joy. And he has been honest with me from day one that his daughter will always be his first priority, something that I actually admired about him. I also understood that he will never be able to leave her with her mother because she has a drinking problem that can lead to violence. However, recently he started being very judgmental of everything me and his daughter do together. His daughter is now 7 years old and a few months ago fell during practice and fractured her arm. He was very worried about her and I was too, but he has always been very protective of her. When I told him that he should relax, she'll be alright, and that he can't control every aspect of her life as a way to comfort him, he told me that he'll never be someone like my father, something that really hurt me but I let it slide. After this incident, he started throwing comments here and there about how I'm being careless with her, how I'm not fit to be around her, or how I sometimes act so childish with her. A few days ago, I was going to pick her up from school, but I was 15 minutes late due to a holdup at work while he was out on a business trip. I felt that she was upset about waiting this long because she never had to wait this long before, but she didn't complain, I just felt it. She was not as upbeat as she usually was, so I decided to cancel my plans for the weekend and spend some time with her, with the promise that all studies would be done on Sunday, which almost always was the usual case. We had what she called girls only day till dad comes home, went shopping, ate out, had a Disney marathon, and spent some time by the backyard pool. That was over the course of 2 days till my husband came back home. I told him what we did over the few days he was away, which I have of course mentioned over the phone when we talked, or his daughter mentioned when he called her. However, his reaction was not what I expected one bit. His first words to me were, "Do you think you can be a proper mother figure for once in your life?" A sentence that till now still bothers me and echoes in my head. We had a big argument which ended with me saying that if he doesn't see me as a proper mother figure to his daughter, he should send her to live with her real mother. I still feel bad about saying this, and I know that it would upset me to no end if he actually separated her from me, because I have honestly grown very attached to her. However, still, I do not know if there is something I am not seeing, or if there is something I fail to understand. Maybe I do not have the instinct to mother a child, or I do not see it as big of a responsibility as it should be. I just do not understand. The silence that followed my words was deafening. Jay stood in the doorway, his suitcase still in hand, staring at me like I'd just slapped him across the face. Emma's laughter drifted in from the backyard where she was still playing by the pool, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside. I watched his knuckles turn white as he gripped the suitcase handle tighter. He set it down slowly, deliberately, like he was trying to control every movement. The vein in his temple pulsed visibly as he walked past me into the kitchen without another word. I followed him, my hands shaking slightly as I gripped the counter. He opened the refrigerator, pulled out a water bottle, and drank half of it in one long gulp. When he finally turned to face me, his eyes were cold in a way I'd never seen before. "You think this is a joke?" His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the anger simmering beneath. "You think taking care of my daughter is something you can just play at when it's convenient?" I felt my own anger rising to match his. Play at? I canceled my entire weekend to spend time with her because she seemed upset. How is that playing? He slammed the water bottle on the counter, making me jump. "You were late picking her up. 15 minutes she sat there waiting, wondering where you were." "I was at work. I called the school to let them know I'd be a few minutes late. She was perfectly safe in the office with the staff." "That's not the point." He ran his hands through his hair, pacing now. "You don't get it. You've never gotten it. Being a parent means being reliable, being there, not just when it's fun or when you feel like it." The accusation stung more than I wanted to admit. I thought about all the school pickups I'd done, the homework sessions, the bedtime stories when he was working late. I've been there for her every single day for 3 years. Have you? He stopped pacing to face me directly. "Or have you just been going through the motions? Playing house?" Emma's voice called from outside, asking if she could have a juice box. I moved automatically to get one from the fridge, but Jay blocked my path. "I'll get it," he said curtly. "Wouldn't want you to be careless with that too." I stepped back, feeling like I'd been punched. He grabbed the juice box and headed outside. Through the window, I watched him kneel beside Emma, checking her over like she might have sustained some terrible injury in the 2 days he'd been gone. She showed him her new bracelet from our shopping trip, and I saw his jaw tighten. When he came back inside, he was carrying Emma's new clothes and toys from our shopping spree. He set them on the counter with exaggerated care. "Buying her affection now?" he asked, not looking at me. "It was a few outfits and a stuffed animal. She needed new school clothes anyway. She has plenty of clothes." "Jay, what is this really about?" I demanded, my voice cracking slightly. "Ever since her arm healed, you've been finding fault with everything I do. I can't breathe around her without you criticizing me." He whirled around to face me. "You want to know what this is about? It's about the fact that you told me to relax when my daughter broke her arm, like it was nothing, like she was nothing. That's not what I meant, and you know it. I was trying to comfort you. You were spiraling, blaming yourself for something that was just an accident. Accidents happen when people aren't paying attention," he shot back. "When they're careless. When they think they know better than the person who's been protecting that little girl since the day she was born." I felt tears pricking at my eyes, but refused to let them fall. "I have never been careless with Emma. Never." "Really?" He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "What about the time you let her stay up until 10 p.m. on a school night watching movies? Or when you gave her ice cream for breakfast because she asked nicely? Or when you took her to the park without sunscreen?" The movie night was a special occasion for her good report card, which you agreed to. The ice cream was on a Saturday, and it was yogurt with fruit, and I forgot the sunscreen once, realized it within 5 minutes, and we went straight home to get it. "Excuses," he muttered, shoving his phone back in his pocket. Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her swimsuit with a towel wrapped around her shoulders. "Daddy, come see the picture I drew of our weekend." Jay's entire demeanor shifted instantly. His face softened, and he smiled at her. "Of course, sweetheart. Go Go get changed first, and then you can show me. She scampered off, and the mask dropped immediately. He turned back to me, and the coldness returned. This is exactly what I mean, he said. You let her swim without changing for hours. She could catch a cold. It's 85 degrees outside, Jay. She's been in and out of the pool all day, drying off in between. You don't know what could happen. You don't think about consequences. I stared at him, really looking at him for the first time in months. The dark circles under his eyes, the way his shoulders never fully relaxed anymore, the constant checking of his phone when Emma wasn't in sight. This wasn't about me at all. What did she do to you? I asked quietly. He froze. What are you talking about? Your ex. What did she do that makes you think everyone is going to hurt Emma? His face went pale, then flushed red. Don't you dare bring her into this. This has nothing to do with her. Doesn't it? You've been acting like I'm going to suddenly become negligent or dangerous. Like I'm going to wake up one day and decide to hurt the little girl I love like my own daughter. You don't know what you're talking about, he said through gritted teeth. Then explain it to me. Help me understand why the woman who's been raising your daughter for 3 years is suddenly unfit in your eyes. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Emma's footsteps echoed down the hallway, and we both automatically stepped apart, trying to compose ourselves. She bounced into the kitchen wearing her favorite pajamas, the ones with unicorns that I'd bought her last Christmas. In her hands was a piece of paper covered in colorful crayon drawings. Look, she exclaimed, holding it up for both of us to see. I drew our weekend. There's me and Sarah at the store, and here we are eating pizza, and this is us watching Frozen, and here's the pool. My heart clenched at the pure joy in her artwork. Stick figures of us holding hands, big smiles on our faces, hearts floating around us. At the bottom, in her careful 7-year-old handwriting, she'd written, "The best weekend ever." Jay took the picture, his hands trembling slightly. It's beautiful, baby. Why don't you go put it on the fridge? She grabbed magnets and carefully positioned her masterpiece in the center of the refrigerator door. Then she turned and hugged Jay tightly. I missed you, Daddy, but Sarah made it super fun. She said we could do it again next time you go away. I saw Jay's jaw clench at her words. Emma didn't notice, already moving to hug me too. Thank you for the best weekend, she whispered in my ear, and I had to blink back tears. You're welcome, sweetheart. Why don't you go brush your teeth and pick out a bedtime story? I'll be there in a minute. She skipped off, humming the Frozen soundtrack. The moment she was out of earshot, Jay turned on me again. You see, you're making promises you can't keep. Setting expectations. What expectations? That I'll spend time with her when you're away? That's what I'm supposed to do. No, he said firmly. What you're supposed to do is follow the routine. Keep her safe, not turn everything into a party. She's 7 years old. She's allowed to have fun. Fun? He laughed bitterly. You think this is about fun? Her mother thought everything should be fun too, right up until she forgot to pick her up from daycare because she was having too much fun at a bar. The words hung in the air between us. Finally, a crack in the wall he'd built. I'm not her, I said softly. I know that, he snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. Do you? Because you've been treating me like I'm one drink away from abandoning Emma at school. He flinched at my words. That's not, I don't, Sarah? Emma's voice called from her room. I picked 3 stories. 3? Jay called back, his voice automatically shifting to playful dad mode. That's too many, silly girl. Please, Daddy, please? Her giggles echoed down the hall. We'll see, he said, then looked at me. I'll put her to bed tonight. We always do it together when you're home, I reminded him. Not tonight. The dismissal was clear. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and headed to our bedroom. I could hear him in Emma's room, his voice gentle as he negotiated down to 2 stories. Her delighted laughter made my chest ache. I sat on our bed, still in the clothes I'd worn to the pool, chlorine scenting the air around me. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend asking how the weekend went. I stared at it, not knowing how to answer. How could I explain that I'd spent 2 perfect days with Emma, only to have her father come home and act like I'd committed some terrible crime? How could I describe the way he looked at me now, like I was a threat instead of his partner? I heard him reading, his voice carrying down the hall. Emma interrupted frequently with questions and comments, and he answered each one patiently. This was the Jay I'd fallen in love with, the devoted father who would move mountains for his daughter. But somewhere along the way, that devotion had twisted into something else. Fear, control, an inability to trust anyone, including me. My phone rang, and I quickly silenced it. My sister's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, not ready to talk to anyone about what was happening. How could I explain that my marriage was falling apart over a weekend of Disney movies and shopping? Jay's footsteps approached, and I quickly changed into my own pajamas. He entered the bedroom, closing the door behind him with exaggerated quiet. She's asleep, he said unnecessarily. Good. We moved around each other like strangers, getting ready for bed in silence. When we finally lay down, the space between us felt like an ocean. I know you love her, he said suddenly in the darkness. I turned to face his back. Then why are you treating me like I don't? Because love isn't enough, he said, his voice thick with something I couldn't identify. Her mother loved her too. Said it all the time. Didn't stop her from leaving Emma in a hot car while she ran into the liquor store. Didn't stop her from passing out while Emma was in the bath. Love doesn't mean anything without responsibility. The pieces were falling into place now. How old was Emma when these things happened? 4. She was 4. His voice cracked slightly. She could have died multiple times because someone who claimed to love her couldn't be bothered to pay attention. I reached out tentatively, placing my hand on his shoulder. He didn't pull away, but he didn't turn toward me either. I'm sorry that happened, I said. I'm sorry Emma went through that, and I'm sorry you had to deal with it. But Jay, I'm not her. I've never neglected Emma. I never would. You were late, he said, and I heard the fear beneath the accusation. By 15 minutes, with the school fully aware and Emma safely supervised. That's not the same thing. He was quiet for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, I can't go through it again. I can't get another call saying something happened to her because someone wasn't paying attention. You won't, I promised. Jay, look at me. He slowly rolled over, and in the dim light from the hallway, I could see tears on his face. This strong, protective man was crying, and it broke my heart. I need you to hear me, I said. I would die before I let anything happen to Emma. She's not just your daughter anymore. She's mine too. Maybe not biologically, but in every way that matters. And I need you to trust me with her, or this isn't going to work. He closed his eyes. I want to. God, I want to. But every time something small happens, all I can think about is what could go wrong. What almost went wrong before? Then we need help, I said. Professional help. Because you can't live like this, and neither can Emma and I. His eyes snapped open. You think I'm crazy? I think you're trying traumatized, I corrected. And I think you're so scared of Emma getting hurt that you're pushing away the people who love her most. He was quiet again, processing. Finally, he said, she was so happy this weekend. I could hear it in her voice when we talked on the phone. She was, I agreed, and she can be that happy all the time if you let her. If you let us. I don't know how, he admitted, and it was the most honest thing he'd said in months. Then we figure it out together, with help. But Jay, you have to stop treating me like the enemy. I'm on your side. I'm on Emma's side. We're supposed to be a team. He reached out, taking my hand. I'm sorry about what I said earlier. You are a good mother figure to her, better than I had any right to hope for. The apology helped, but I knew it wasn't enough. One sorry wouldn't undo months of criticism and mistrust. I need you to show me, I said. Not just say it. I need you to actually trust me with her. He squeezed my hand. I'll try. I'll look into therapy. For me, maybe for us. Okay, I said, squeezing back. That's a start. We lay there in the dark, hands clasped between us. It wasn't fixed, not by a long shot, but it was a beginning. He asked after a while, she really drew a picture of your weekend? She did, with hearts and everything. I'm glad, he said, and sounded like he meant it. I'm glad she has you. I wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that this was the turning point we needed, but I knew it would take more than one conversation to undo the damage that had been building. Tomorrow, I would research therapists. Tomorrow, I would have to figure out how to help my husband heal from wounds I hadn't even known existed. Tomorrow, we would have to start the hard work of rebuilding trust. But tonight, I held his hand and hoped it would be enough. The next morning arrived too quickly. I woke to find Jay already gone from bed, the sheets on his side cold. Through the bedroom door, I could hear him in the kitchen with Emma, their morning routine proceeding as if last night's conversation had never happened. I pulled on my robe and made my way to the kitchen, where Emma sat at the breakfast table working on a bowl of cereal, while Jay packed her lunch with military precision. He glanced up when I entered, but didn't meet my eyes. Morning, Sarah, Emma chirped, milk dripping from her spoon. Daddy's making my special sandwich today. I forced a smile and kissed the top of her head. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Jay continued assembling the sandwich, each component placed with careful attention. 2 slices of whole wheat bread, exactly 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, measured and spread evenly. 1 tablespoon of strawberry jam, organic only. The crusts cut off in perfectly straight lines. Everything wrapped in wax paper, not plastic, because plastic could contain chemicals. I reached for the coffee pot, and our hands almost touched. He pulled back like he'd been burned. I already made Emma's lunch, he said, his tone neutral but firm. I can see that, I replied, pouring my coffee. I was just getting caffeine. Emma, oblivious to the tension, continued chattering about her upcoming show and tell. She wanted to bring the stuffed elephant we'd bought during our shopping trip. Jay's jaw tightened at the mention. Actually, sweetheart, he interjected, why don't you bring your rock collection instead? Remember how we organized them by type? Emma's face fell slightly. But I really want to show everyone, Ellie. The rocks are educational, Jay said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Mrs. Peterson will appreciate that more. I watched Emma nod reluctantly, her excitement dimming. The bright, bubbly child from our weekend was already fading back into the careful, compliant daughter Jay seemed to prefer. After Jay left to drive Emma to school, a task he'd taken over completely since our argument, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop searching for therapists. The list was overwhelming. Marriage counselors, family therapists, specialists in trauma and anxiety. I bookmarked several, planning to call during my lunch break. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Haven't heard from you in days. Everything okay? I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Everything was not okay, but how could I explain that my husband had turned our happy home into a minefield of unspoken accusations? Before I could respond, another text appeared, this time from Jay. Picking Emma up today. Don't worry about it. The dismissal stung. He'd effectively cut me out of the school routine entirely. I typed back, I'm happy to pick her up. My schedule is clear. Already arranged my afternoon around it, came his immediate response. I set the phone down, frustration building. This wasn't showing trust. This was the opposite. He was systematically removing me from Emma's daily life, all while claiming he knew I loved her. At work, I struggled to focus. My colleague Catherine noticed my distraction during our morning meeting. You seem off today, she said afterward, cornering me by the coffee machine. Everything all right at home? Catherine had 3 kids of her own and had been through a divorce. If anyone might understand, it would be her. Can I ask you something? I said, glancing around to make sure we were alone. When you were going through your divorce, did your ex ever question your parenting? Her expression softened. Constantly. He picked apart everything I did. Too strict, too lenient, too involved, not involved enough. Nothing was ever right. How did you handle it? Therapy, she said simply. Individual and couples, though the couples part didn't save the marriage, but it helped me understand that his criticism came from his own fears, not my failures. I nodded, feeling slightly less alone. I'm looking into therapists now. Good. And Sarah? She touched my arm gently. Don't let him make you doubt yourself. I've seen you with Emma at company picnics. You're wonderful with her. Her words brought tears to my eyes. It had been so long since anyone had validated my relationship with Emma. The rest of the workday crawled by. I made calls to 3 therapists during lunch, managing to schedule a consultation with one who specialized in blended families and trauma. The earliest appointment was 2 weeks away, but I took it. I texted Jay about the appointment. Found a therapist who specializes in family dynamics. Can you do Thursday the 18th at 6 p.m.? His response took an hour. I'll have to check. Emma has practice. It's after practice, I replied, having already checked her schedule. We'll see. The non-commitment frustrated me, but I booked it anyway. If he wouldn't go, I'd start alone. That afternoon, I arrived home to find Jay and Emma already there. Emma was at the kitchen table doing homework while Jay supervised, correcting her pencil grip, reminding her about proper posture, checking each answer twice. Hi, sweetheart, I said, entering carefully. How was show and tell? Emma glanced at her father before answering. Good, everyone liked my rocks. That's wonderful, I said, though her subdued tone suggested otherwise. Sarah, she needs to focus, Jay said without looking up. Math requires concentration. I retreated to the living room, feeling like an intruder in my own home. Through the doorway, I watched them work. Emma would occasionally look my way, offering small smiles that I returned, but Jay's presence kept her focused on her worksheets. When homework was complete, Emma asked if she could play in the backyard. For 30 minutes, Jay agreed, but stay where I can see you from the window. Emma nodded and headed outside. I followed Jay into the kitchen as he began dinner preparation. I booked a therapy appointment, I I said, trying to sound casual. Dr. Benjamin Lee. She comes highly recommended. He measured rice with precise movements. I told you I need to check my schedule. Jay, you said you'd try. This is trying. I am trying, he said, his voice tight. I'm trying to keep Emma safe and maintain her routine and make sure she has everything she needs. She needs a family that functions, I countered. She needs parents who trust each other. He finally looked at me, and the exhaustion in his eyes was overwhelming. I don't know how to do that anymore. That's why we need help. Emma's laughter drifted in from outside. She was playing with the neighbor's cat that often wandered into our yard. Jay immediately went to the window. She shouldn't be touching stray animals, he muttered. It's Mr. Peterson's cat. She pets him all the time. Animals carry diseases. They can scratch or bite without warning. I watched him grip the counter, knuckles white with tension. This wasn't about the cat. This was about control slipping away, about dangers he couldn't predict or prevent. Jay, I said gently, she's just petting a cat. She's safe. You don't know that, he snapped. You can't know that. Nobody can predict when something will go wrong. Emma must have sensed his watching because she looked up and waved. Jay forced a smile and waved back, but the moment she returned to playing, his face fell back into lines of worry. Dinner was a quiet affair. Jay had prepared chicken, steamed vegetables, and brown rice. Nutritious, balanced, boring. Emma pushed her food around, clearly missing the more adventurous meals we used to make together. Can we have tacos tomorrow? She asked hopefully. We had Mexican food this weekend, Jay said. Too much spicy food isn't good for your stomach. It wasn't that spicy, Emma protested mildly. Sarah asked them to make it mild. Jay's fork paused midway to his mouth. I'm sure she did, but we need to stick to the meal plan. I bit back my response. We'd never had a meal plan before. This was new, another way to maintain control. After dinner, Emma asked if we could watch a movie together. It's a school night, Jay said automatically. Just a short one? Emma pleaded. We used to watch movies on Wednesdays sometimes. That was before, Jay said, then caught himself. You need proper sleep for school. Emma's shoulders slumped. Okay, Daddy. I couldn't stand the disappointment in her voice. How about I read you an extra story at bedtime instead? Emma brightened slightly, but Jay intervened. One story. Consistency is important. The evening routine proceeded with mechanical precision. Bath time at exactly 7:30, lasting no more than 15 minutes. Teeth brushing for 2 minutes, Jay timing it on his phone. One story, no negotiations for more. Lights out at 8:15. I kissed Emma goodnight, whispering, sweet dreams, love bug. She hugged me extra tight. I love you, Sarah. I love you too. Jay watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. After Emma's door was closed, he turned to me. We need to talk about boundaries. I followed him to the living room, bracing myself. You can't undermine me in front of her, he began, offering extra stories when I've already said one, bringing up activities that go against the routine. I'm not undermining you. I'm trying to make her happy. Happy isn't the goal. Safe is the goal. She can be both, can she? His voice rose slightly. Was Emma's mother making her happy when she let her eat candy for dinner? Was she making her happy when she let her stay up all night watching TV instead of going to school? I'm not suggesting anything like that, and you know it. It starts small, he insisted. Little indulgences, bending rules, making exceptions. Before you know it, structure falls apart completely. I stared at him, recognizing the fear but frustrated by its application. Jay, there's a huge difference between reading an extra story and the neglect you're describing. Is there? Where's the line? Who decides what's harmless and what's dangerous? We do, together, like partners. He shook his head. I can't take that risk. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. He couldn't take the risk of trusting me, of treating me as an equal parent to Emma. Then what am I doing here? I asked quietly. If you can't trust me with Emma, if you're going to question every interaction we have, what's my role in this family? He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was strained. I don't know. The honesty was brutal. I felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. I made an appointment with the therapist. I said, I'm going, with or without you, because I can't live like this, and Emma shouldn't have to either. What's that supposed to mean? Look at her, Jay. Really look at her. She's walking on eggshells, afraid to express preferences, dimming herself to fit your anxiety. That's not healthy. She's fine, he said defensively. She's 7 years old and already learning to make herself smaller to avoid upsetting you. That's not fine. He stood abruptly. I'm protecting her. You're suffocating her. And me. He left the room without another word. I heard the bedroom door close. Not quite a slam, but close enough. I remained on the couch, processing everything. The happy family we'd built over 3 years was crumbling, and I didn't know how to stop it. Every attempt to reach Jay hit the wall of his fear. Every moment of joy with Emma was tainted by his disapproval. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma's teacher. Hi, Mrs. Collins. Just wanted to check in. Emma seemed a bit subdued during show and tell today. She mentioned wanting to bring a stuffed animal, but bringing rocks instead. Everything okay at home? Even her teacher had noticed. I typed back, thank you for checking. We're working through some adjustments at home. Please let me know if you notice anything else concerning. Of course. Emma's such a bright light. Hate to see her dimmed. Let me know if you need anything. A bright light. That's what Emma was, and what she was losing. The next few days followed the same pattern. Jay maintained rigid control over every aspect of Emma's routine. I existed on the periphery, allowed to participate only within his strict parameters. Emma grew quieter, more compliant, less like the joyful child who'd splashed in the pool just days ago. On Saturday, I woke to find Jay already up, creating a detailed schedule for the weekend. 9 a.m., breakfast, 9:30 a.m., room cleaning, 10 a.m., educational activities, 11 a.m., outdoor time, supervised, 12 p.m., lunch. Jay, I interrupted. It's Saturday. Can't we just see how the day goes? He didn't look up from his list. Structure is important. Children thrive on routine. Children also need spontaneity. Fun. The freedom to be kids. That's exactly the kind of thinking that he stopped himself, but I knew how the sentence ended. The kind of thinking that led to negligence, to danger, to Emma getting hurt. Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. Morning. Good morning, sweetheart, I said. What would you like for breakfast? She glanced at Jay. Whatever Daddy planned is fine. My heart broke a little more. This wasn't the Emma who used to bounce into the kitchen requesting pancakes shaped like butterflies or French toast with extra cinnamon. Oatmeal with fresh fruit, Jay announced. Nutritious and filling. Emma nodded dutifully and took her seat at the table. I watched her eat mechanically. None of her usual chatter about dreams or plans for the day. I was thinking, I ventured carefully, maybe Maybe we could go to the farmer's market today. Emma loves looking at all the flowers and trying the samples. We have errands to run, Jay said. Grocery shopping, dry cleaning, car wash. The farmer's market isn't on the list. Couldn't we add it? It's beautiful outside. Emma perked up slightly. The flower lady said she'd have sunflowers this week. Remember, Sarah? You said we could get some for my room. I remembered. During our girls' weekend, we'd driven past the farmer's market, and Emma had pressed her face against the car window, admiring the bright blooms. Sunflowers drop pollen, Jay said. It could trigger allergies. Emma doesn't have allergies, I pointed out, that we know of. Allergies can develop at any time. Emma's shoulders slumped. It's okay. I don't need sunflowers. The defeat in her voice sparked something in me. Yes, you do. Every little girl needs flowers in her room if she wants them. Jay's spoon clattered against his bowl. Sarah, what? Are we really going to deny her sunflowers because of theoretical allergies? It's not about the flowers. No, it's about control. It's about fear. It's about you being so terrified of something happening to Emma that you're preventing her from living. Emma's eyes went wide, darting between us. I immediately regretted raising my voice. Emma, sweetheart, why don't you go get dressed? I suggested gently. Pick out something pretty. She fled the kitchen, and Jay turned on me. How dare you undermine me like that in front of her? How dare you turn her into a shadow of herself because of your anxiety? I'm keeping her safe. From what? Sunflowers? Happiness? From me? He stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. You don't understand. You can't understand. You've never had to pick up your child from the police station because her mother forgot she existed. You've never had to rush to the emergency room because she was left unsupervised and got into the cleaning supplies. You've never had to explain to a 4-year-old why mommy loves her bottle more than her daughter. The pain in his voice was raw, real, but so was my frustration. No, I haven't, I agreed. But I'm not her. I'm here, every day, loving Emma and trying to give her a normal childhood. And you're punishing both of us for someone else's failures. I'm protecting, you're projecting, I interrupted. You're so caught up in what happened before that you can't see what's happening now. Emma is disappearing, Jay. The bright, curious, joyful child I met 3 years ago is fading away, and you're so focused on keeping her safe that you don't even notice. He stared at me, jaw clenched. If you don't like how I parent my daughter, our daughter, I corrected firmly. You asked me to be her mother. You can't take that back when it's inconvenient. I never said, you say it every day. Every time you override my decisions, question my judgment, or cut me out of her routine. You want me to be her mother when it suits you, and a babysitter when it doesn't. Emma's small voice interrupted us. Are you fighting because of me? We both turned to find her in the doorway, dressed in the bright yellow sundress I'd bought her but hadn't seen her wear since our shopping trip. Her eyes were filled with tears. No, sweetheart, I said immediately, moving toward her. Never because of you. But Jay was already there, kneeling beside her. Everything's fine, baby. Adult conversations sometimes sound bigger than they are. I don't want you to fight, she whispered. I'll be good. I don't need sunflowers. My heart shattered. This 7-year-old child was trying to manage our emotions, make herself smaller to keep the peace. Emma, I said gently, sitting on the floor beside them, you don't need to be good for us to not fight. That's not your job. Jay shot me a warning look, but I continued. Your job is to be 7, to want sunflowers and butterflies and movie nights, to laugh and play and sometimes make messes. That's what children do. But Daddy says structure is important, Emma said, looking between us uncertainly. Structure is important, I agreed, but so is joy. And lately I think we've forgotten about the joy part. Jay stood, lifting Emma with him. Let's get ready for our errands. The dismissal was clear. I watched them go, Emma peering at me over Jay's shoulder with confused, sad eyes. I spent the morning alone while they ran errands. I called my sister finally, pouring out the whole story. She listened without judgment until I finished. Oh, honey, she said, this sounds incredibly hard. I don't know what to do, I admitted. I love them both so much, but I'm losing them. Or maybe I never really had them to begin with. That's not true. From everything you've told me over the years, you've been a wonderful mother to Emma. Jay doesn't think so. Jay is scared, she said gently. Fear makes people do terrible things to the ones they love. How do I fight fear? With patience, with boundaries, and with help. Is he going to therapy with you? He's being evasive about it. Then you go alone first. Work on what you can control. But Sarah, don't let him erase you from Emma's life. She needs you. After we hung up, I sat in Emma's room, looking at the drawings she'd made over the years. So many featured the 3 of us together, stick figures holding hands, surrounded by hearts and rainbows. The recent ones were different, still the 3 of us, but with space between the figures, no more holding hands. When Jay and Emma returned, I was in the kitchen making lunch. Not the planned lunch from Jay's schedule, but grilled cheese sandwiches cut into stars and homemade tomato soup, Emma's favorite comfort meal. Smells good, Emma said, then caught herself looking at Jay. We planned to have salads, Jay said. Plans can change, I replied, setting Emma's plate in front of her. Sometimes comfort food is what we need. Emma looked at her star sandwiches with longing. Jay sighed, but didn't protest further. We ate in relative silence, though I noticed Emma savoring every bite. After lunch, Jay announced it was time for educational activities. He'd bought workbooks, math, reading comprehension, science. On a Saturday? I asked. Maintaining academic skills is important, especially on weekends. What about the park? Or a bike ride? Or literally anything that isn't sitting at a table doing worksheets. Physical activity is scheduled for 3 p.m. Scheduled physical activity? I couldn't hide my disbelief. Jay, she's not a robot to be programmed. She's a child. I'm aware of what she is, he said coldly. I'm her father. Then act like it instead of her warden. Emma had shrunk in her chair, workbook unopened in front of her. I immediately regretted the harsh words. You know what? I said, making a decision. I'm going to the farmer's market. Emma, would you like to come with me? She looked at Jay, seeking permission. He stared at me for a long moment. The workbooks will be here when we get back, I added. 1 hour, that's all. Please, Daddy, Emma whispered. Something in her small voice must have reached him because he nodded stiffly. 1 hour. Stay together. Call if anything happens. Emma jumped up, excitement breaking through her careful composure. I'll get my shoes. As she ran off, Jay grabbed my arm. If anything happens to her, nothing will happen, I said firmly. We're going to buy flowers and maybe some fresh strawberries. That's all. You don't know. I know that she's been dying inside trying to be perfect for you. I know that she's 7 years old and should be excited about flowers without worrying they'll trigger theoretical allergies. I know that I love her and would never let anything happen to her. That has to be enough. He released left my arm, but the worry in his eyes remained. The farmer's market was everything Emma needed. She practically vibrated with excitement, pointing out colorful vegetables, inhaling the scent of fresh herbs, marveling at homemade soaps and candles. When we reached the flower stand, her whole face lit up. "Sunflowers," she breathed. "They're even bigger than last week." The vendor, recognizing us from previous visits, smiled. "I saved the best ones for my favorite customer." Emma beamed, carefully selecting 5 huge sunflowers. As I paid, she hugged them gently, face buried in the golden petals. "Thank you, Sarah," she whispered. "They're perfect." We wandered the market, Emma chattering non-stop about school, her friends, a book she wanted to read. This was the Emma I knew, the one who'd been hiding under layers of careful behavior. "Sarah," she said suddenly, "are you and Daddy going to get divorced?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I knelt beside her, taking her free hand. "Why would you ask that, sweetheart? Benji's parents got divorced. He said they fought a lot first. About him." "Oh, Emma, your daddy and we're going through a tough time, but it's not about you. It's about grown-up stuff that we need to work on." "Is it because I broke my arm?" "Daddy's been different since then." My heart ached. This perceptive child had noticed everything. "No, baby, none of this is your fault. Sometimes adults get scared and don't handle it well, but that's for us to fix, not you." She nodded solemnly. "I like when you and Daddy are happy together, like before." "Me too," I admitted, "and I'm going to try really hard to get back to that. Promise?" I pulled her into a hug, careful not to crush the sunflowers. "I promise to try my very best." We returned home to find Jay pacing the living room, phone in hand. "You're 15 minutes late," he said. "The market was busy. We got caught up looking at everything." Emma held up her sunflowers proudly. "Look, Daddy, aren't they beautiful?" His face softened slightly. "They're very nice, sweetheart. Let's put them in water." As Emma arranged her flowers in a vase, chattering about each one, I saw Jay watching her. For a moment, his guard dropped, and I glimpsed the father who used to delight in her enthusiasm. That evening, after Emma was in bed, following the strict routine of course, Jay found me on the back porch. "She was happy today," he said quietly. "She was. That's all I want, Jay, for her to be happy." He sat beside me, maintaining careful distance. "I know I've been difficult." I waited, not trusting myself to speak. When she broke her arm, all I could think about was how I'd failed to protect her, how I'd let her do something dangerous. It brought back everything from before, but she was at gymnastics practice, with qualified instructors. Kids fall sometimes. I know that logically, but logic doesn't matter when your child is hurt. All I could think was that I'd been careless, like he trailed off. "Like your ex," I finished. He nodded. "And then you told me to relax, that I couldn't control everything, and it felt like you were minimizing it, like you didn't understand how serious it was. I was trying to comfort you, to remind you that accidents happen, and Emma was going to be okay. I know that now. But in the moment, it felt like you were being cavalier with her safety. And once that thought took root, I started seeing carelessness everywhere. In me, in everyone, but especially you, because you're the one I'm trusting with her when I'm not there." I turned to face him. "Do you understand how that feels? To go from being her mother to being someone you can't trust overnight?" "I'm sorry," he said, and I could hear the genuine regret. "I know I've hurt you. I've hurt Emma too, haven't I? She asked me today if we're getting divorced. She thinks it's her fault you've changed." He flinched as if I'd slapped him. "God, I never wanted. I'm supposed to be protecting her." "You can't protect her from yourself, Jay, from your fear. She's trying so hard to be perfect for you that she's disappearing. I see that now. Today, watching her with those sunflowers, when did she stop asking for things? When did she stop being excited about little pleasures? When you started treating every joy as a potential danger." We sat in silence, the weight of the past months settling between us. "I'll go to therapy," he said finally. "Individual and couples, whatever it takes." "Really? I can't keep living like this. We can't keep living like this. Emma deserves better. She deserves both her parents," I said. "Working together, trusting each other. I want that. I just don't know how to turn off the fear. That's what therapy is for, to help you process what happened before and separate it from what's happening now." He reached for my hand tentatively. "Can you forgive me for all of it?" "I'm trying," I said honestly, "but I need to see change, not just hear promises." "Fair enough." We stayed on the porch until the air grew cool, not talking, just sitting with a possibility of healing between us. The following week passed in a strange limbo. Jay attended his first individual therapy session on Tuesday, returning home quieter than usual. He didn't share details, just nodded when I asked if it went okay. Emma noticed the shift in energy, watching us both with those perceptive eyes that missed nothing. Wednesday morning, I found Jay in Emma's room before dawn, sitting on the floor surrounded by her drawings. The sunflowers from the farmer's market stood proudly on her dresser, petals still vibrant. He held the picture she'd drawn of our weekend together, tracing the stick figures with one finger. I didn't announce myself, just watched as he carefully sorted through months of artwork. There were so many featuring just him and Emma from before I came along, then the gradual inclusion of a third figure, me. The progression was clear, separate figures at first, then closer, then holding hands. The recent ones showed us apart again. Emma stirred in her bed, and Jay quickly set the drawings aside. I retreated before either noticed me. That afternoon, I picked Emma up from school without asking permission. Jay's therapy appointment ran until 4:30, and I wasn't going to leave her waiting. She bounced into the car with her usual after-school energy, chattering about a science project on butterflies. "Can we stop at the library?" she asked. "I need books with pictures for my poster." At the library, Emma dove into research with enthusiasm. She pulled book after book, exclaiming over monarch migration patterns and chrysalis formations. I helped her carry the stack to a table, where she spread everything out with careful organization. "Sarah?" She looked up from a particularly colorful page. "Do you think Daddy will let me raise butterflies? My teacher says we can order caterpillars online." The question hurt. Not whether we could raise butterflies, but whether Jay would allow it. "I think that sounds like an amazing project," I said carefully. "We can ask him together." She nodded, but I saw the doubt in her eyes. We checked out 6 books, and Emma hugged them to her chest the whole drive home. Jay was already there when we arrived, pacing the living room. His face went through several emotions when he saw us. Relief, anger, something that might have been fear. "Where were you?" His voice was controlled, but I heard the edge. "Library," Emma piped up, showing her books. "For my butterfly project." He looked at me over her head. I met his gaze steadily. "Her teacher assigned it yesterday. She needed research materials." Emma spread the books on the coffee table, pulling me down beside her to look. "See, Sarah? This one shows the whole life cycle, and this one has instructions for building a butterfly habitat. Jay remained standing, watching us. Emma, caught up in her excitement, didn't notice his tension. She flipped through pages, pointing out different species, explaining what she'd learned about metamorphosis. Can we order caterpillars, Daddy? She asked, looking up at him with hopeful eyes. Mrs. Peterson says it's very educational. We'd release them when they become butterflies. I watched Jay struggle. The old him would have immediately listed concerns, potential diseases, the responsibility, what if they died, but something in Emma's expression, or maybe something from therapy, held him back. Let me research it, he said finally. We need to make sure we do it properly. Emma's face fell slightly at the non-answer, but she nodded. Okay, Daddy. After dinner, which Jay let me help prepare without comment, Emma worked on her project outline while we cleaned up. The domesticity felt fragile, like blown glass that might shatter at any moment. How was therapy? I asked quietly, handing him dishes to dry. He took a long time to answer. Hard. Dr. Morrison wants me to write down every time I feel the need to control something with Emma, to identify the trigger and the fear behind it. That sounds helpful. He set down the plate he was drying. This morning I spent 10 minutes debating whether her socks matched closely enough. 10 minutes, Sarah. Over socks. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just listened. She asked me what I was afraid would happen if her socks didn't match, and I couldn't answer, because nothing would happen. Nothing. But in the moment, it felt critical. Emma called from the living room, asking how to spell metamorphosis. Jay started to go, but I touched his arm. Let me, I said. Finish what you were saying. He nodded, and I went to help Emma while he continued drying dishes. It was a small thing, but it felt like progress. Thursday brought our first couples therapy session. Jay picked Emma up from school while I met him at Dr. Lee's office. The waiting room was pleasant but sterile, trying too hard to be calming. Jay arrived 5 minutes late, slightly out of breath. Traffic, he explained, though I suspected he'd sat in the parking lot, debating whether to come in. Dr. Lee was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes and a direct manner. She let us settle into opposite ends of a couch before beginning. So, she said, tell me what brings you here. We talked over each other, stopped, started again. Finally, Jay gestured for me to go first. I explained about Emma, about the weekend that triggered everything, about feeling pushed out of my own family. Jay listened without interrupting, his hands clenched in his lap. When it was his turn, he talked about Emma's mother. Details I'd never heard before spilled out. Finding Emma alone in their apartment at age 3, having climbed onto the counter to reach cereal because her mother had been passed out for hours. The emergency room visit when she'd gotten into bathroom chemicals. The final straw, a call from a gas station attendant who found Emma alone in a hot car while her mother was inside buying alcohol. I got custody easily, he said, voice flat. She didn't even fight it. Signed away her rights like Emma was an inconvenience she was glad to be rid of. Dr. Lee took notes, asking occasional questions. How old was Emma when this happened? How long had he known about the drinking? Had he sought help for his own trauma? I thought I was fine, Jay admitted. I had Emma, she was safe, that's all that mattered. Then I met Sarah, and she was so different, so responsible and caring. I thought I could trust again. What changed? Dr. Lee asked. Emma broke her arm. The words came out rough. At gymnastics, a supervised activity I'd approved, and all I could think was that I'd failed again, let my guard down, let her get hurt. And Sarah's response? He glanced at me. She told me to relax, that I couldn't control everything, which was probably meant to be comforting, but it felt like minimizing, Dr. Lee finished. Like she didn't understand the gravity of protecting Emma. Exactly. We spent the rest of the session establishing ground rules for communication, identifying triggers, discussing homework. Dr. Lee gave us both journals to track our thoughts and reactions. As we left, she pulled me aside briefly. This is going to be a process, she said. Trauma doesn't heal overnight, but the fact that you're both here is significant. Friday afternoon, Emma's teacher called. Not with concerns this time, but with praise. Emma had presented her butterfly project outline with enthusiasm, engaging the whole class. She'd even brought in one of her library books to share pictures. I wanted you to know, Mrs. Peterson said, because she mentioned she wasn't sure if she'd be allowed to actually raise the butterflies, but she was so knowledgeable and excited. It was wonderful to see. I thanked her and hung up, feeling mixed emotions. Pride in Emma's presentation, sadness that she doubted the butterfly project would happen. When Emma got home, she was buzzing with excitement. Everyone loved my presentation. Benji wants to raise butterflies too. Mrs. Peterson said I did excellent research. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I pulled her into a hug. I'm so proud of you. Jay arrived home to find us looking at butterfly habitat options online. Instead of immediately listing concerns, he sat down with us. Tell me about the project, he said to Emma. She launched into an explanation, showing him websites, pointing out different kit options. I watched him listen, really listen, occasionally glancing at me with something like wonder. This one has a guarantee that at least 3 caterpillars will successfully transform, Emma said, pointing to her favorite kit. And it comes with everything we need. The habitat is reusable too. What happens if one doesn't make it? Jay asked, and I held my breath. Emma's face grew serious. Mrs. Peterson says that's part of nature. Not every caterpillar becomes a butterfly, but that's why they send 5, to increase the chances. And we'd learn from it either way. Jay nodded slowly. Okay, we can try it. Emma's squeal of delight could probably be heard 3 houses away. She threw her arms around Jay, then me, then ran to call her best friend with the news. That was hard for you, I observed quietly. Terrifying, he admitted. What if they all die? What if she's devastated? What if they transform into beautiful butterflies and bring her joy? I interrupted gently. What if this becomes a wonderful memory? What if she learns about resilience and nature and growth? He was quiet for a moment. Dr. Morrison would say I'm catastrophizing again. Are you? Probably. He managed a small smile, but I still ordered the kit with the highest success rate. I laughed, and after a moment he joined me. It wasn't fixed, not by a long shot, but it was something. Saturday morning arrived with Emma bouncing on our bed at 6 a.m., too excited to sleep. The butterfly kit won't arrive for a week, Jay reminded her, but with fondness rather than irritation. I know, but I want to set up the perfect spot for the habitat and make observation journals. And breakfast first, I said, ruffling her hair. Butterflies need well-fed scientists. She raced to the kitchen, and Jay and I followed more slowly. He'd slept better, I noticed. The deep circles under his eyes had faded slightly. No schedule today? I asked, noting the absence of his usual weekend timeline. I thought we'd try something different. He pulled out his therapy notebook. Dr. Morrison wants me to to practice flexible structure, having general plans but allowing for spontaneity. How does that work? We need to go grocery shopping at some point. Emma has that birthday party at 2, but the rest? He shrugged, and I saw how much effort that casual gesture took. We'll see how it goes. Emma chattered through breakfast about butterfly facts she'd memorized. Did we know some butterflies taste with their feet? That they can see ultraviolet colors humans can't? That the monarch migration takes multiple generations to complete? We should plant a butterfly garden, she announced suddenly, to attract them after we release ours. Jay tensed slightly. I saw it in his shoulders, but he took a breath, glanced at his notebook, and said, that sounds like something we could research. Emma beamed. Can we go to the garden center today, just to look? We'll see, Jay said, then caught himself. Actually, yes, we can look. The morning unfolded with a rhythm we hadn't had in months. Emma helped with grocery shopping, Jay letting her choose some items without commenting on nutritional value. At the garden center, she dragged us through rows of plants, reading labels to find butterfly-friendly options. Milkweed for monarchs, she recited, zinnias, cosmos, black-eyed Susans, oh, purple coneflowers. An employee overheard and stopped to talk with Emma about butterfly gardens. Jay stood back, watching our daughter engage with confidence and joy. When the employee offered to show Emma the butterfly bush section, Jay nodded permission without hesitation. She's really something, I said quietly, standing beside him. She is. He paused. I've been so afraid of losing her that I've been losing her anyway, haven't I? Not losing, I corrected, just dimming. But look at her now. Emma was animatedly discussing plant heights and bloom times with the employee, her hands gesturing wildly as she explained her project. The brightness was returning. We didn't buy plants that day. Jay's progress only went so far, but Emma left with a list and a promise that we'd plan the garden together. In the car to the birthday party, she hummed happily, clutching her plant list. Sarah, she said suddenly, will you help me design the garden? You're good at making things pretty. Of course, sweetheart, we'll make it beautiful. And Daddy can help with the measurements and making sure everything's planted right, she added, including him naturally. Jay met my eyes in the rearview mirror. I'd like that, he said. At the birthday party, I watched Jay struggle with letting Emma run off with her friends. His hand twitched toward his phone several times, probably fighting the urge to text her though she was just in the backyard. But he resisted, engaging in small talk with other parents instead. She's doing the butterfly project too, one mother said. My daughter hasn't stopped talking about Emma's presentation. Apparently, she made it sound so exciting that half the class wants to raise butterflies now. Pride flickered across Jay's face. She's been researching extensively. Kids need projects like that, another parent chimed in. Something to care for, to watch grow, teaches responsibility. Jay nodded, and I saw him mentally noting their words. External validation helped, confirming what I'd been trying to tell him. Sunday brought rain, trapping us inside. The old Jay would have scheduled indoor educational activities. Instead, he let Emma build a blanket fort in the living room while we worked on butterfly garden designs at the kitchen table. What about a spiral pattern? I suggested, sketching roughly. Taller plants in the center, shorter ones spiraling out? That would work, Jay said, pulling up spacing requirements on his tablet. We'd need at least 3 feet between the larger plants. Emma appeared from her fort, trailing blankets. Can I see? We showed her our ideas, and she clapped excitedly. It's perfect. Can we add a little bench to sit and watch the butterflies? Where would it go? Jay asked, but he was already adjusting the design to accommodate her idea. We spent the afternoon refining plans, Emma contributing ideas while Jay calculated square footage, and I researched complementary plants. It felt like partnership, like family. That evening, as bedtime approached, Emma asked, can we skip bath night just this once? I want to finish my observation journal cover. The old Jay would have insisted on routine. Instead, he glanced at me, then at his therapy notebook. Just this once, he agreed. But teeth brushing is non-negotiable. Emma hugged him fiercely. Thanks, Daddy. After she was in bed, only 15 minutes past official bedtime, Jay and I sat on the couch, both exhausted but oddly peaceful. Today was good, I said. It was terrifying, he corrected, but with a wry smile. Do you know how many times I wanted to insist on the schedule? To list reasons why a butterfly garden was impractical? To make her come in from the fort to do something educational? But you didn't. Number I wrote in the journal instead. Dr. Morrison will be pleased. He paused. Emma was happy today. She was. You both were. He reached for my hand, tentative. I'm trying, Sarah. I know it's not enough yet, but it's a start, I said, squeezing gently. That's all we need. A start. Monday's therapy session was individual for Jay, but he came home looking thoughtful rather than drained. Dr. Morrison wants me to try something, he said over dinner. A trust exercise. I have to let you make all parenting decisions for one full day. I can't override or question anything unless it's genuinely dangerous. Emma looked between us with interest. Like what kind of decisions? Everything, Jay said, and I heard the effort those words cost him. What you eat, when you go to bed, what activities you do, Sarah decides. Cool, Emma grinned at me. Can we have ice cream for dinner? Nice try, I laughed. But I think we'll stick with regular food. Maybe ice cream for dessert if you eat your vegetables. Jay's shoulders relaxed slightly. I understood. He needed to see that I wouldn't go wild with freedom, that I'd still make responsible choices. We chose Wednesday for the experiment. Jay left for work looking like he was heading to his execution, but he kissed us both goodbye and didn't leave a single instruction. The day unfolded normally. I picked Emma up from school, approved her snack choice, apple slices with peanut butter, helped with homework, made dinner. The only deviation from Jay's usual routine was letting Emma help cook, which resulted in slightly messy counters but a proud child who'd successfully made her first omelet. Can I call Daddy to tell him about the omelet? She asked. I hesitated, knowing Jay was probably dying for updates, but also recognizing this was part of the exercise. Let's wait until he gets home. It'll be a surprise. When Jay arrived, Emma dragged him to the kitchen to show off her cooking skills. He listened with genuine interest, praising her technique, not mentioning the flour still dusting the counter. How was your day? I asked carefully after Emma went to get ready for bed. Longest day of my life, he admitted. I wrote in the journal every hour, but he paused. Nothing bad happened. Nothing bad happened, I confirmed. Emma had a normal, happy day. She learned a new skill. She did her homework without complaint. She even chose to practice piano without being reminded. He nodded slowly. Dr. Morrison said the anticipation would be worse than the reality. Was it? Yes. I spent all day imagining disasters that never came. He looked at me directly. Thank you for being patient with this. With me. Thursday was butterfly butterfly kit arrival day. Emma practically vibrated through school, according to her teacher's amused text. When I picked her up, she bounced into the car, already planning. I set up the perfect spot in my room, away from direct sunlight but still bright, and I finished my first observation journal at lunch. At home, we carefully unpacked the kit together. 5 tiny caterpillars in individual containers, looking impossibly small and fragile. Emma read the instructions aloud while I helped her set up the habitat. Jay arrived home to find us lying on Emma's floor, watching the caterpillars through magnifying glasses. They're so tiny, he said, joining us on the floor. But they'll grow, Emma informed him seriously. They'll eat and get 20 times bigger before they make their chrysalises. Chrysalises? Not cocoons? Emma launched into an explanation of the difference between moth cocoons and butterfly chrysalises. Jay listened intently, and I saw him fighting not to mention the possibility of failure. Over the next days, we fell into a new rhythm. Emma checked her caterpillars first thing each morning, making careful observations in her journal. Jay still struggled with control, but he wrote in his therapy journal instead of imposing rigid rules. I found my place again, no longer pushed to the periphery but included in decisions and daily life. The first caterpillar formed its chrysalis exactly 1 week later. Emma shrieked with excitement, dragging us both to see. Look, it's starting, just like the book said. We watched in fascination as nature took its course. By evening, the transformation was complete. 1 pale green chrysalis hanging from the habitat lid. How long until it becomes a butterfly? Emma asked. 7 to 10 days, I said, checking the guide. Then we'll see if our patience pays off. Jay tensed slightly at the uncertainty, but said only, we'll watch and see. By the weekend, all 5 caterpillars had successfully formed chrysalises. Emma documented everything, taking photos, making sketches, writing detailed notes. Her teacher sent home a note praising her dedication to the project. Saturday morning, we started the butterfly garden. Jay had ordered the plants we'd chosen, and they arrived in neat boxes. Emma donned her gardening gloves, a new purchase she'd picked out herself, and dove in with enthusiasm. Milkweed here, she directed, consulting our plan. And the zinnias in a rainbow pattern. We worked together, Jay ensuring proper spacing, me helping Emma with the artistic arrangement, all of us getting gloriously dirty. The neighbor's cat wandered over to investigate, and Jay didn't immediately shoo it away from Emma. Progress, I murmured to him. I only thought about toxoplasmosis twice, he replied dryly. By afternoon, we had a respectable butterfly garden taking shape. Emma stood back, dirt smudged on her cheek, beaming at our work. It's perfect. The butterflies will love it. They will, Jay agreed, pulling her into a sideways hug. You did a great job planning this. That evening, exhausted and satisfied, we had a picnic dinner in the backyard to admire our handiwork. Emma chattered about which butterflies might visit, what flowers would bloom first, how she'd document every visitor. Can we get a garden journal too? She asked, to track what butterflies come. I think that's a great idea, Jay said before I could respond. We could mount it in a weatherproof box. Emma's eyes widened. Really? You mean it? Really? This is your project. We should do it right. She hugged him fiercely, then me, then ran inside to start designing her garden journal. That was good of you, I said quietly. It's getting easier, he admitted, saying yes, not immediately seeing danger everywhere. Dr. Morrison says I'm rewiring my brain, creating new pathways. How does that feel? Terrifying, he said, but smiled, and freeing. Sunday brought our next couples therapy session. Dr. Lee noted the changes immediately, how we sat closer on the couch, how Jay reached for my hand when discussing difficult topics. Tell me about this week, she prompted. We shared the butterfly project, the garden, the trust exercise. She asked probing questions about how each event felt, what fears arose, how we handled them. I'm impressed, she said finally. This is significant progress in a short time, but, she looked at Jay. There will be setbacks. Healing isn't linear. What matters is how you handle them. What kind of setbacks? Jay asked, and I heard the worry creeping back. You might find yourself reverting to old patterns during stress. Emma might get hurt again. Children do. Something might trigger memories of your ex-wife's negligence. The key is recognizing these moments and having strategies to cope. We spent the rest of the session developing coping strategies, code words to use when one of us noticed the other spiraling, agreement to pause discussions if they became too heated, permission to call each other out gently on problematic behaviors. Monday morning brought excitement. The first chrysalis was darkening, indicating the butterfly was nearly ready to emerge. Emma could barely concentrate on getting ready for school. What if it happens while I'm gone? She worried. I'll watch, I promised, and take pictures if anything happens. Jay started to suggest staying home, then caught himself. Sarah will take good care of them, he said instead. I spent the morning working from home, checking the chrysalises every hour. Just after lunch, I noticed movement in the darkest one. Within minutes, a crack appeared. I grabbed my phone, recording as a perfect painted lady butterfly slowly emerged. It was magical, watching those crumpled wings slowly expand and dry. When Emma got home, I showed her the video. She watched it 3 times, tears of joy streaming down her face. It worked. It really worked. By evening, 2 more butterflies had emerged. Emma sat cross-legged in front of the habitat, observing every movement, sketching in her journal. Jay joined her, equally fascinated. They're so perfect, Emma breathed. Look at the patterns on their wings. Nature is pretty amazing, Jay agreed. Over the next 3 days, all 5 butterflies successfully emerged. Emma documented everything, creating a presentation for school. The morning we planned to release them, she was up before dawn. It's release day, she announced, bouncing on our bed. We waited until afternoon when the day had warmed. Emma carried the habitat carefully to her butterfly garden, Jay and I flanking her like an honor guard. Should we say something? Emma asked, like a ceremony. What would you like to say? I asked. She thought for a moment. Thank you for teaching us about patience and growth and change. Fly free and be happy. One by one, she opened the habitat and coaxed the butterflies onto her finger. Each one paused, wings flexing, before taking flight. The last one, the biggest, landed on a zinnia before flying away. Emma stood between us, watching until the last butterfly disappeared. We did it, she whispered. We really did it. Jay pulled us both close. We did. That evening, Emma worked on her school presentation while Jay and I prepared dinner together. The kitchen felt warm, comfortable, like home again. I've been thinking, Jay said, chopping vegetables with less precision than usual. Maybe we could take a family vacation this summer, somewhere with butterflies. I nearly dropped the pot I was holding. Really? Dr. Morrison thinks thinks it would be good for me. Controlled exposure to unpredictability. He smiled wryly. Plus, Emma would love it. She would. We all would. He nodded, adding vegetables to the pan. I'll still need to research extensively. Check reviews, safety records, proximity to hospitals. Of course, I agreed, hiding my smile. Wouldn't expect anything less. Emma appeared in the doorway. Did someone say vacation? Maybe, Jay said. We're discussing possibilities. Can we go somewhere with a butterfly conservatory? She asked eagerly. Where you can walk through and they land on you? We'll add it to the list of considerations, Jay promised. As we sat down to dinner, Emma chattering about butterfly destinations she'd already started researching, I caught Jay's eye. He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in months. We weren't fixed. There would still be bad days, setbacks, moments when fear overwhelmed progress. But sitting there, listening to our daughter's excitement while eating dinner we'd made together, I knew we'd found our way back to being a family. The next morning, Emma found a monarch butterfly visiting her garden. She watched it move from flower to flower, her face glowing with quiet joy. Jay and I stood behind her, his hand finding mine. Look, Emma whispered, it likes the milkweed best, just like the book said. We watched together, 3 people learning to trust in transformation, in growth, in the possibility of beautiful things emerging from difficult changes. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. It was everything.